just want to say welcome to you guys and anyone who is joining us now. And also just to let people know that if you have any questions for any of the costume designers here, you can put questions in the chat box. It's public, so everyone can see your questions and then we can try to address them. This will be probably 30 minutes or so of questions and then a little bit of me asking questions and then a little bit of Q&A after. This will be recorded, so it'll be available when we're done. And you can always follow us at Glamhive. And if you want to hashtag the event, you can just hashtag Glamhive Live. And have to give a big shout out to Mary Kay, because Mary Kay Global has been just a huge, amazing sponsor of Glamhive. And they're, just really great in a world, really celebrating beauty and fashion and kind of like a champion and in their industry, and really creative and really have been very, very helpful and supportive to Glamhive. So big thank you to Mary Kay. I would say let's start with Michelle. And I would like you to just introduce yourself and tell us what project you are working on right now. You are muted.
Hi, everybody. This is Michelle Cole. Hi. I'm currently on Grownish for ABC.
Wow. Okay, that's fun.
Yes.
Okay. Jen.
Hi, I'm Jen Rogan. I am working on it's called Black Gumball, and we're about done. And then I'll be hopefully off for a couple weeks. We'll see.
Okay, Mandy.
Hi, I'm Mandy Line. I just wrapped the Bold Type season 5, and I'm continuing with my podcast and my Instagram live shows of this week.
Cool. Allison.
Hi, I'm Alison Fanger, and I am starting back on Grace and Frankie on Monday, which is exciting.
Fun.
And I just finished doing the pilot for the reimagining of Fantasy Island with 2 women leads, which was super challenging, but amazing. And I also just did a movie with Diane Keaton, which was really fun. So
wow. Okay, that's fun. And yeah, busy, especially at this time. That's really good to hear.
Yeah,
hopeful.
It's been great.
So let me just start with some of my questions for Michelle. Yes. You studied clothing and textiles. That's how you started. Was becoming a costumer like a big dream of yours from a young age, or did you just discover it as you were getting into textiles and things like that?
I discovered my stepmom was a drama teacher. So I started there when I was probably about 14, 15, and I would help her do sets. And then I kind of would go into the wardrobe department and kind of see what was going on there. And then my dad loved old movies. So when I saw Audrey Hepburn in My Fair Lady, that's when I made the decision that I wanted. I came out of the theater and I said, Dad, I want to be a costume designer. And, you never knew, you didn't know how to do that. So,
no,
and this is a long time ago. So, but he was very supportive, family was very supportive. And then I studied it. I went to college in the South. So I studied it there, costume designing.
Very cool. How important do you think it is for you, for the types of projects that you do, to stay on top of trends in the fashion world? And do you feel like the trends play a role in character development for you?
Well, for me, I'm not a big magazine person, so I love watching. I love watching runway shows. That's my thing. Is I love watching runways, but more than anything, I love to travel. I love to watch people. That's where I probably get most of my resources, is from watching people. I love art. I love going to museum. I love traveling. So for me, I just kind of just zoom and just watch people all the time. So that's where I probably get most of my research, is from just being on the streets or just shopping or anywhere. I just kind of like just take a photographic memory and then snapshot. And then when a character comes up for me, then I go to that character. Like when I did In Living Color, it was like Homie the Clown, or it was like Damon pursuing the alcoholic, the homeless guy, all those kind of things. They came from like certain people with the sock hanging from his sleeve. I saw a homeless person having a sock hanging from a sleeve. So I just so those are things I take with me, and I enjoy it. So that's where I get most of my research is from there.
First of all, two things. That's so cool that you worked on In Living Color. I mean, that's like a costumer's dream, because you're just doing something different, and it's really, you're getting to really develop like these long running characters that really stick in people's mind and are, real. Like you relate to these characters. And that's funny because I'm the same kind of, like, sometimes in a non-psychotic way, I might drive by like a high school. Mm-hmm. And when a high school is getting out, I just that creeper that's parked on the side, just to sort of see like, oh, what are today's 14 and 50? What's the trend that I'm seeing with the teens kind of coming out? I think it's really important that we are paying attention to, especially like I'm a stylist and a costume designer, and they could not be more opposite, like in one, as a costume designer, I feel like, and would be the golden rule, is that the clothes are speaking before the character says a word. I don't care if that's Frank Darabont wrote it or whatever, or you have the greatest actor on the planet, your clothes are already talking, about your socioeconomic class, just who you are. So it's, you can't, as much as you can look at trends, you really do have to, as a costume designer, where you're building a character that's relatable, you have to. Whereas in styling, the clothes can be a little louder and talk in a different way. But okay, you worked on In Living Color, and did the Fly Girls, which is crazy. I mean, that's the beginning of Jennifer Lopez. It's hard to even imagine that, like, I'm sure you couldn't have even imagined how her career would totally blow up from that.
You kind of knew it. She was 18 when she did In Living Color, and all of those actors, they were going to make it. I mean, it was such a talented cast, and she was just a go-getter. So I'm not a bit surprised of where she is in her life. I mean,
how do you feel like I feel like their costumes really did impact like an entire generation of people. And it's a lot of those really major 90s trends that you kind of helped originate. And now we're seeing those same, it's just like, we're in the 20s, then we're in the 70s, we're in the 60s, then it's coming back in the 80s, whatever that is. 50s, new look, big shoulder pads, then you see it again in the 80s. How do you feel like, what trends are you surprised to see again? Or do you look at and think, oh my God, I remember when I did that, 25 years ago?
Shoulder pads. Shoulder pads are kind of the thing. I think that's the really big thing right now, is the big shoulder pads is making a comeback. And I think the bras with the t-shirts. Sometimes I see like remember when the Fly Girls would wear the bras over their t-shirts and then all the pearls? I'm starting to see that again. So
does that like feel so cool when you see things now and you're in your mind, you're just like at the supermarket and thinking like, if only you knew that I did it first. Like like how cool is that?
I think that, all of us here, I think when you do a project, I don't know about the rest of everyone, but it's like, you don't think about like, is this going to be a hit? Is this going to be this? I think you're just going in, doing the art, and you're being creative, so when something like that, I'm really humbled by it when I see things. I'm just like, wow, that really took off, or you start this, or when I see the photographs coming back of the Fly Girls, I'm overwhelmed by it sometimes, because I can't believe we did so much. We did like 4 or 5 dance breaks every show. So it was a lot to keep up.
Yeah, that was a big costume heavy show, and
very much
really like iconic. I mean, that's one of those things that like will live on when you're not even on the planet anymore. I mean, that's going to live on in like costume history.
Yes.
What do you feel like you're most proud of in your career?
Oh God! First of all, just sitting on the panel with these lovely costume designers. I mean, it's such a spiritual journey for me, because I think that as an artist and as a creative being, I kind of really get into it. I get into my character building. I love that. I'm really proud of it. I'm proud to be part of the CDG, part of being the costume designer. I've been doing it I've been in the Designers Guild about 40 years. So it's been close to,
You're like 23. What?
No, it's been
I'm so confused. You were 10? You were 10 when you joined?
Yeah, you can say
like
that.
A prodigy. Okay. Fair enough.
But I'm proud. I mean, I'm proud of the mistakes I've made, because you learn from them. And I'm proud to be a part of this community, because there's so much talent in this community. And for me, it's just being able to work with people that I really, really like. I really enjoy all my executive producers. They allow me to just do my thing. So I think that's what really helped. I think that's what's helped me the most is being with executive producers, as this allows me to do what I love to do. And I think that's basically it for me. That one I'm really just proud of.
What do you think are 3 important traits that someone should have to be a successful costume designer? I have some things that I think in my mind, but I'm curious what you think.
I think for me, love and passion is you have to have it for this. I mean, because you're up at night, I think most of my vision is in middle of the night, where I'm thinking of things, of wedding dresses or this or anything I have to do. So most of mine is throughout the night. I think you have to be assertive. I'm going to do more than 4, 3, and 4. I'm going to do way more than that, because I've been doing this over 40 years, so I get to do that. But I think being assertive, you have to be very assertive to be able to walk into your producer's office to ask him about characters. I think you have to have confidence. I think you have to be flexible. The script changes. It changes. I do comedy, so script changes constantly. So. Something can be in 1 minute and then the next day it's out. So you have to be able to, to switch gears like that. So, but I think you have to have a real big passion. You have to have a love for this. And I think the confidence is really, really big. And I think being assertive and flexible it's worked for me.
Okay, I get with that. I was looking at the chat box. Someone said, I'm a designer. How do you break into doing costume design? Who is a good person to connect with? Is there a job board for costume design gigs? I've designed a really strong Viking Queen costume that I've been holding on to for the right opportunity, maybe a movie. I feel like we should get to the chat questions maybe like after. And like I can open that and we can kind of look through them. I would just say for myself, I'm just going to throw this out there. Like I always tell people, whether it's for styling or being a costume designer, because I mean, even just for this commercial that I'm doing now, I'm like a very method kind of stylist. Mm-hmm. That's what I tell myself. I don't know. Even if it's in a commercial, I always have like a backstory for myself. Sometimes that comes from just me being a comic. Like I'll tell myself like, oh, well, you didn't see, and no one saw this, but like, oh, this person works in HR. And they know that like the person in accounting had an affair with so-and-so, and they're like a secret fashion blogger, but nobody knows it. And kind of everyone hates them. They're the office gossip. Like I'm always trying. And I also feel like really to be a good designer, you can't be, it really is not about money. I mean, unless you're working on a huge thing where they're asking for, every custom made 1920s gown, you should be able to walk into a vintage store, whether that's a Goodwill, whatever, with $30 and 30 minutes. And if you can't pull something together, this is probably not the job for you. It can't just be, you have a huge budget and you can just get, Remocker look 21 and whatever it is. Like you have to be able to, and I also feel like you have to find the beauty in everyone. I don't care who the person is, everybody on the planet, you either have beautiful cheekbones or you have great eyes or great shoulders or great legs. And I like to make people leave a fitting and feel more confident about their body. And or if someone says, oh, I can't wear red, I'm like, well, you can't wear an orange base red, but you could wear a blue base red. And just getting people to, and really so much does come from that costume. You've created, that's really what gives the actor the freedom and the feeling of like, who is this person, you know? So yes, I agree with that. Alison, what is the best and the worst thing about working in costume design?
Well, that's a big question. I mean, I think the best thing is getting to create and have every day. For me, I love being excited about every day because every day is different. You know, I can't imagine having a job where I was always doing the same thing. So this was a perfect fit for me. From the very beginning, I was like, this is what I should be doing. Because every day is a challenge and every day is exciting. And, you know, sometimes it's really frustrating. And then it's like oh, sorry. It's like you're conquering a challenge every day. And I love being like excited, and I get energized by that kind of an environment, you know? So I love that. I think, sorry about my dog. The worst part, I mean, I don't, the only thing I don't like about my job, because I love my job, you really do have to be so passionate. You have to love it. You have to love every minute, and again, every challenge. I hate late casting.
I was just gonna say that. That's the worst part.
And COVID testing now, like I just had a character, like a main character who, on this thing I just did, who must have gotten COVID. The day, like I was supposed to fit him the next day. I had everything ready, and then I couldn't fit it because he couldn't come, and I was like, okay, he has COVID. And then I ended up not being able to fit him for weeks, and it was just like very challenging. So all of that makes it challenging. It makes it hard for you to do your job the best you can do it if you don't have the time. So it's like that. Sometimes the challenges get to be too much, where then I end up compromising. And I don't like compromising my character looks because I know they can be better. So, you know, that's the only thing I don't like, is when things get in the way of me doing my best job. And I agree with you 100%. It's never about the budget. I mean, I've been doing these incredibly low budget jobs lately. Like I just did this film that was really low budget, and it was such a puzzle and such a challenge. And I like that too. You know, figuring that out, calling in resources, being super creative, like all of that just makes it fun. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm the same. Like I would say, yeah, the best is definitely the challenge and being able to be creative. But yeah, the worst is like right now when you have fittings and you don't have, I'm guessing, like I'm just imagining and having to sort of basically buy, I'm like, could we shoot this job at the mall? Because that would be amazing if we could just shoot this at the mall. Or if it's like a last minute casting change and you've gotten everything in a certain size and then they've decided to go in a totally different direction, and you find that out at 9 o'clock at night and the person is shooting, of course they're first up the next day. It's like they can't even be at 3 PM, you know, it's the first shot of the day. And you know, but then that is sort of also the fun challenge of you have to figure it out. I mean, there's like our job, and then people always say like, what's your real job? And I think for all of us, it's, you're really a problem solver. Like we're costume designers, but ultimately we're really just problem solvers. And it's just being able to say, yes, how can we figure out whatever this new thing that's being thrown at you, you know, and it's not easy.
And thinking ahead, like staying ahead of it, like you're in it for as long as we all have been. It's like you can anticipate a problem before it happens, and that is such an important part of my job. It's like I can see something coming down the line. I'm
right, or even sometimes thinking ahead for a director where maybe you have a restaurant scene and they're only thinking about the principals, and they forget, like, you know, you're not really seeing that person in the background, but you might want a chef's hat, or you might want a line cook, or they're not, you have 2 aprons, but you're being on top of it and saying, I might just get 6, because they may lay out that scene and feel like, you know what, we're going to move this person. And do you have an extra apron? You really have to, you know, just be able to, at the drop of a hat, kind of, you know, have anything and everything.
Yeah, you know, it's like we're almost like producers, to be honest. Like,
you know, we are producers, definitely of our department for sure.
Yeah.
So which Grace and Frankie, like, dream, that's a dream costume show and cast. I'm like, oh my God. Who is more fun to dress, the uptight businesswoman Grace or the free-spirited Frankie? I mean, probably both, but so different. But do you have a favorite? Because you get to really go from one side of the spectrum to the other.
Yeah, it's super fun just to delve so deeply into the characters. And what you said before about, like informing, we inform before an actor opens their mouth, we have informed character to a large degree. And that was that's so fun with these two characters because they were such a dichotomy, right? So I got to really,
Yeah, I mean, that's like such a perfect example where you're dealing with a character like Frankie. Before even one line of dialogue is said, just from the accessories, you're already getting the feeling of like who this person is, you know?
Exactly. And I had like the backstory, of course, of her, and she traveled and all her jewelry is from
and everything has a little history to it. And that's the fun part, really. That's the type of, that's really the joy of costume design, is thinking back. No one ever saw it. It isn't even necessarily part of a show. But in your mind, you get to think like, oh, did she go to Peru and like pick up this fun, you know what I mean? Like that's where we get to have so much creativity.
Yeah, she was like, Frankie's so fun to do also because it's really fun to dig for unique pieces for her. So that is really fun because I just go to the most remote corners of anywhere. A lot of times like Instagram or wherever I'll find like artists from forever. I always say it's like the biggest craft fair in the world if you really dive deep into the artists that are on Instagram. And they DM me and like I like to find these people and find the most unique pieces that that no one would ever know where they came from. And I like to use them and I like to help people like that and get them on. And it's nice to do that. So that's been a really fun part of my job with her. I didn't anticipate that ever. Like we were saying about how you never know how it's going to hit. And I didn't anticipate the excitement that would be around like her jewelry. These pieces have become such an important part. And I don't know, just these artists are so cool. And so
I love like sometimes, I mean, the internet is like the best and the worst thing that's ever happened to society in so many ways. It can be really negative with, people are tried in the court of social media. It's really can be damaging, especially to younger people where there's bullying and all kinds of things. But at the same time, I mean, I can't even fathom how I would prep jobs, especially since COVID, where the stores don't even really have the same selection as they would. And to not be able to go online. And even just like I just did something with a pro football player who was 6'5", and to be able to find sizing, just the vast amount of things. And yeah, I mean, you could go down. I love going down the Instagram rabbit hole of just the things, and it's a great feeling to be able to find something and then tell that person like, hey, I'm gonna use your piece, and it's just really fun.
I also take character inspirations from Instagram. People I deep dive Instagram for character. It's just like we were saying about, walking around and seeing people. Like I just find people on Instagram because I look for character inspiration in real people always. I think we all do. All of us who are like storytellers that we are, we're looking for the details and the nuances that real people have to make them relatable and feel, multi-layered, because that's what real people bring. They're never that'd be like, that's the big difference between a character and a caricature, that where I think people get lost. Like I just recently did a commercial for a schizophrenia medication, and I did it mainly because I really like the directors, but it was an incredible story where it showed this girl before she took this medication, the paranoia, just she was so lost in herself, really disheveled, everything was dirty. And then after taking the medication, just the little things of like, even her bag, like, I was like, well, in the beginning, her bag should be very stuffed full, because I remember seeing that movie, Ordinary People, and thinking, it always stuck in my head, like the bigger the bag, the more crazy you can stuff inside of it. And I always tell my guy friends that, like, if a girl has a really big bag, you should maybe stay away. But you think about that. And then when she's more together
everything's more organized, you know, and it's little things like that that make me happy, you know, and then just make the job fun, honestly. Do you think it's easier for personally, like when you are creating a character that you can relate to, or it doesn't really matter because you're basing it on some real person or a bunch of real people anyway?
Yeah, usually I find a muse in a real person that either I know or is a public figure or something, to find all the layers. I don't have to relate to them personally. I actually like diving into someone I don't know and finding all those little nuances that make them unique, you know, and then finding the relatable details that you can add to the character for the people that then will relate to the character. Like I feel like that's what happened with Grace and Frankie. People, it hit so hard with people because they all know someone in their life that they can relate to, whether it's their sister or their mother or, you know, their aunt or someone.
Right.
Within those two women, the spectrum of people, they're all there, right?
Right. It's everyone.
Yeah.
Was going to ask, but I think we'd all agree accessories are, the question is, how important do you think accessories are? And I think we would all agree they're very, very important, because the littlest thing, you know, maybe it's like a heart like mine that your mom gave you or whatever it is, you know, something that, so. And is there any places that you would say are go-tos for you for shopping for characters, or are you at like Warner Brothers and costume shops a lot?
I mean, it depends on the character. So like, I like to go, if I'm going to shop, you know, I'll think about where would this character shop? What other stores? I go to for different characters, I'll go to even different locations of the same store. Like I might go to Bloomingdale's in the Valley because somebody would be more that, you know what I mean? Or I go, or I'll do the city, you know, it just depends because they stock different things. So
totally,
it's the same thing. I just kind of go wherever I think that person would go, basically. And, you know, and it can be all kinds of, it's going to be like, you know, a camping store or whatever. Like I love, like for Saul, I was like, he definitely was a camper. You know, they never said that, but I'm like, they definitely went camping when they were growing up as a family.
Right.
Like I wanted to go get him those vintage shirts, you know.
Did you say Saul,
the character?
Saul. Okay, that's what I thought.
Frankie's ex-husband on the
show. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Jen, are you ready? Because you're muted. Okay, we're back. You and your red lip. What made you want to become a costume designer?
I don't know that I ever wasn't one, because I was that kooky kid that would make dresses for their English projects, because that seems normal, right?
Totally.
Anytime I could make something for a school project, they assigned a 5-page paper. I wanted to make a figurine and a chariot to go along with it to illustrate the writing, you know? So I was a big dress up, a kid who loved to play dress up. And it wasn't princess dress up. It was like my mom's handmade Gunny Sacks knockoff dress and like my dad's weird hats and scarves. And I was playing a character. I'm a terrible actor, for the record, which is why I'm a costume designer, because I get to do all of those things, but using the clothes to tell the story, as opposed to, you know, using my physicality or my voice or any of those things. Cause I'm not good at that part of it, but I really love inhabiting the world. Creating a world from the ground up. Even if you're creating a world like on Orange is the New Black, we were creating the world of a prison. It's a thing that really exists, but ours had all of its own rules that were based on the rules of a real facility. But because of our story and our group of characters, we needed certain things that were specific to how our world worked, even though it was the real world of a prison, more or less. So it's all of those things that I think I was doing even when I was in grade school and junior high.
You're just a born costume designer. This is your destiny.
I wish I would have known, because I would have avoided a quarter life crisis when I was 25 years old. But instead, I started to work in corporate America and then did theater after hours and realized that I had it completely backwards.
Well, that was part of your journey, though. Like you maybe wouldn't have appreciated what you have now if you didn't have a quarter life crisis. And if you didn't have that corporate experience, and I'm sure you took, even you probably took costume inspiration that is maybe not even in front of your mind, but that you lived that affected, you know, other things that you do.
There is no one better in the world at organizing a project than corporate America. which
Right.
when you can apply that to a freelance situation like we do every day, you're much better at what you do, having learned how to work as a team, how to organize your day, how to meet deadlines. Ours are just faster and more intense than that. So yeah, I appreciated that experience a lot. It was really good.
I see people asking about IG handles, and when we're done, I'm going to everyone can go into the chat box and put your Instagrams and stuff. First of all, I can't even deal with the fact that you were the costume designer on Girls. That's another like super iconic, so just topical and of the moment, and like in a generation of like, it's just another one that'll kind of like go live on, you know, forever. And what was it like with an ensemble cast like that, where it's all these different girls and guys, and you know, they're friends, so they obviously have something that draws them together, but their character and personality and look is so different and unique. Like, how did you go about creating those looks, the
And
characters?
mind. And that show started 10 years ago this year.
What?
I know. I know. The first season was shot in 2011, 10 years ago. So that show from a costumes perspective was incredibly fun. You know, we had $11 every episode, and that was okay because those girls as characters didn't have any money. So it's back to, it wasn't about the money. It was, how many thrift stores can we cover with a little bit of Nordstrom rack for Marnie, to make it look like these girls are real people, not just characters in a television show. And so the fun of that show was creating really strong individual identities for each girl through silhouette and through pattern, but then using color to keep them cohesive as a friend group. And so when they're just in scenes by themselves, you get to really push it and have a really good time. But when they were all together, I made sure that we balanced the colors between the girls so that no one would clash unintentionally. There was plenty of intentional clashing.
Right.
And then the guys were part of that too. It wasn't just the 4 girls, it was 4 girls and 4 guys, and the world of New York, because the show was as much about being in New York or another big city where you're trying to find yourself as it was about Hannah.
Yeah, no, I'm from Philly, and I feel like it had a very, very New York thrift shop feel. And I love, even as a costume designer, looking at it and knowing like, wow, I never watched Sex in the City because I don't watch a lot of television, but I love Pat Field, obviously, but the little bits that I've seen of it, I would think, and I get it, it was a very fantastical type of thing, but as a designer, I might watch 2 minutes and think like, it's not, no, like these characters could not afford these clothes. And I get that for that show it was okay, but I really loved that aspect of Girls, that you could watch and feel like, oh yeah, she literally looks like she went to the West Village, and it's real. Like, you know, nothing looked over styled. It was very organic, which I think was the fun testament to you.
Thank you. You were saying you method shopped, and we sort of did the same thing. We would make lists of like, where's Hannah shopping? You know,
all the like, where would that person really go? And
where's Marnie shopping? Where's Elijah shopping? Yeah,
I mean,
I feel like that was really fun.
I mean, it's a question of, do you think the characters on Girls influence fashion trends? But it's self-answered. There's no question.
I have such a hard time with that one because I am so in this bubble. It is not about trend. And most of the shows, for me, not to say that it's not, because I have been on shows where it is, but one of the big challenges of at least the shows that I work on, and I don't know about you other amazing costume designers, my shoot date and my air date are anywhere from 6 weeks to 6 years apart. Okay, 6 years is an exaggeration. So the first season of Russian Doll, we shot that a year before it came out. If I would have jumped on any trend at all for anything, it would have looked like this little time capsule, and it wasn't intended to do that. So I spend a lot of time actually treading lightly with trend, especially in the age of TikTok, Snapchat, Depop, all of these things where trends change, literally can change in a day. I have to be really careful with those when my logistical time frame is so much longer than that. And if I jump on a trend, it can really alienate a character or make them look dated very quickly in a way that was never intentional. And so that was something with girls where it was never about trend for those women. None of them were really following any trend, partially because they had such strong personal identities that they were doing their own thing. But I also knew that it was on HBO. It wasn't going to air within the fashion cycle. And I would get a lot of messages from fans actually that would be super frustrated because something was either on sale or completely sold out.
And by the time,
so much later. Yeah.
Right. By the time the show aired, they couldn't get it.
Exactly. And so I tried to work with, if possible, where I could with younger designers, where if something did get featured, it would be something they might still have because they weren't big enough to be completely embedded in the fashion cycle and therefore sold out. But I did notice this was a funny thing that I was like, okay, maybe it's having an impact. The shirt that Hannah wore to her interview in the second episode that was then on the posters for the show was from Madewell. And it was probably on sale. And when the show came out, the season after it, Madewell re-released that shirt in the same fabric. And I thought, maybe it was popular. The shirt.
Right. Maybe you did something that actually affected that and like had an effect, which I think is the case for everyone. Like you don't do it you don't do your job thinking about that, but inevitably, you can't be that focused on a trend because something could come out 4 months, even in a commercial, like it's coming out 4 or 5 months later, depending on the post-production. And you don't want it to be something that's, so trendy that it's become out of style. You need things to be timeless. And even if you go back, like for me, Scarface is a huge costume design influence. Like Michelle Pfeiffer's wardrobe in that movie is so like iconic. And I feel like it's totally, stood the test of time. I don't even really remember what year it was made, but I just know for me as a kid, I was like, wow, like that white dress really left a memory for me. I do want to ask about Russian Doll, and crazy that you also do Orange is the New Black. That's mental, but I also want to go to Mandy and I have a bunch of questions. So let me do that for a sec. Do you feel like there's like a set, and I know the answer is going to be no, there isn't really no set way to becoming an established and acclaimed, well-known costume designer. Like we've all followed our own path.
I actually have the rules on my arm written on how to, I'm just kidding, totally kidding. I'm sorry.
What?
I geek out on these costume designers. Listening to Jen, I just got to get focused on my question. It was such a great answers, Jen. Like it's just right here on the tip of my tongue. Lou Eyrich said it best when I interviewed her. She said, there is no path that I can tell you. It is your journey. But I do know that there are trends. Right now, I'm seeing a trend of ACDs, assistant costume designers, with their resume, building it up and then blowing up. If you look at Anne Foley assisted everybody. Look her up, guys. And she is blowing up. Take me and Soyeon on, another costume designer. I think I'm too much of a Leo to ever have a boss. I think I had like 2 bosses and then I did my thing. So it's your path, it's your journey and how you want to do it, but you have to stay on it. Like vacations, what? When you first as a PA, what is that? So I think that drive is the constant, with all of us for sure.
Yeah, I'm like you, like I'm a Capricorn and I was an assistant for like 4 months when I was like 20.
We never date. Us dating.
No, we guys didn't date. And I was thinking like, damn, it's Saturday night and Mandy's looking kind of fire.
So much.
But even like in college, I had already had enough credits to graduate. And actually those paintings behind me, those were done by my costume design professor in college. Before every play, instead of doing a sketch, she would watercolor and just freehand a painting. And we in the costume department would then have to be like, okay, that's from She Stoops to Conquer, the play. Yeah. And we would have to look at it and be like, okay, that's a giant bubble skirt. And what's the size of the stage? And figure out how to literally make the pattern to create that. And then when I, ended up becoming a costume designer, she sent me these 2. And then before the play, if you went into the lobby while you were waiting for the doors to open, it was all of the paintings that she did of the entire show. Wow. It was really beautiful. Her name is Elena Zlodescu. She's incredible and was obviously a very big influence. But even at 20, I went in to apply there was a movie shooting in Baltimore where I went to college, and I had enough credits to graduate on time. So I went in to be like, oh, maybe I could be a PA, and it was super low budget. Yeah. And they were like, why don't you be our costume designer? I was like, really? I'm 19 actually. And it paid $125 a week.
Yeah,
a week.
I was a PA on The Nanny, so I think I got about that much.
And I did everything. I mean, if it was in the dead of winter, if the dolly grip got sick, I was like, oh, I guess I'm pushing the dolly today. Oh, you need a cable wrangler? Okay. Oh, you need VTR? I mean, I can push that button and take notes on it. Like, I will always tell people low budget is a great way sometimes to get in, because you have a respect for every other department.
Unless on the resume I see that they've built an Elvis costume out of a piece of toilet paper. But truly, the low budget, the learning on the fly, I really think that's huge. But if someone comes to me and be like, I've only done high-end commercials and I have this jewelry line, I want a little grit to who you are, because that's
if someone shows up to me, like if an assistant shows up for the first time and they're wearing stilettos, it's game over. We're not going to work out together, because
they're size 11. I take them and then they're and then
I'm like, no, I spend a lot of time on my knees, and I don't like I'm sure people have their nails polished, but I can't even like get a manicure, because I don't even I feel like I'm like an ant.
I always say, when a costume designer's on a break is that when it looks like this. That's the second that when I come home, get my nails done.
I can't even physically, like mentally, I cannot. I've had my nails done once in my life because I'm so tactile. I feel everything is about like how something feels. I remember fabric by how it feels. And even if it just gives me anxiety thinking about it. If somebody tries to touch my nails, I feel like for 3 days after, my fingertips don't feel the same, and I can't. Yeah. So if you've made a French maid costume out of duvetine at 2 a.m, we're probably gonna get along.
You know what I was thinking about when you said that, and ladies, you can answer this. I remember back in the day, I used to apply the squibs to costumes.
Totally.
If you watch it, you know what squibs are. Squibs are actually like full of gunpowder that like explodes and makes the bullet wound. And we used to cut the wound. That is so illegal. Like,
oh yeah, like I've done every kind of blood.
We know
all of that. Like, glycerin, monster dripping. That very first film was blood spatter. Again, 19, non-union in Baltimore, blood, glycerin, like full on horror movie.
That's our heart. That's where.
Yeah, everything that would basically be illegal in 892. Like, but you have to do that to start.
Yeah.
True. So just tell me like about with the bold type coming up, like what's been the most like, I don't know, exciting, fun thing about working on that project?
Thank you. First of all, Bold Type premieres May 26th. We're going to have Bold Type parties in our houses. Go bold or go home. Here's one of the coolest things. First of all, the challenge of working in a pandemic in Montreal, negative 23 degrees with all stores closed. Not only did I learn a lot, but here was one of the coolest things. Going back to work, and I know these 3 women, they shop with intention, they design with intention. I worked with Charlize Antoinette, who is another amazing costume designer who did Judas and the Black Messiah. She had, it was the Black Designer Database. And I went into this project with intentions. We are going to create a folder to purchase from the BIPOC community. I didn't want to just go to Nordstrom's or just go to Holt Renfrew. That's a Canadian store. The stuff you will see on the Bold Type this season is from smaller, like Jen said, independent designers from the BIPOC community, because if I had money and I had money on the Bold Type, I wanted to put it back into the right community. So that was the most special and most exciting and important thing that I could do this season on the Bold Type.
That's so awesome. I love to hear that, because we really do have an ability with budgets that we get, whether big or small, to choose who are we going to support. And it's really so fun to find those smaller designers, whether it's accessories, shoe, clothing, and, just to be able to support them, especially if it's a type of thing where it's a key character thing that you need triples or, it's going over whatever, and it's
And
having,
not that they know the speed that we need it in. They're like, okay, when
no.
I was like,
Yeah, we'll get that to you in 6 weeks. You're like, my job will be over in 6 weeks, but thank you. Yeah.
but
No,
you know,
that's the
that
thing.
was awesome.
You do have to, people have to adjust when you're dealing with designers directly. Like, it's not all, you know, they can't get you what, and I'm like immediate, you know, we live in the generation of Amazon. Like, I want my shit drone. I want a drone over my house, dropping it off in 3 minutes right now, today. Literally, I need like 100 things by 5 o'clock today. So I get it.
True.
What about like, I mean, Pretty Little Liars? That's another one, like where that's like such an icon. I mean, you guys, I'm like jealous. Like, we need to talk. Like, how am I going to segue out? Can we make this about me? I want to segue. Like, I love doing commercials and I've done movies, but it's too long of a commitment for me. I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to be 6 months on a project. But like, and like I said, I could never do hour long. I don't know how you do that, but half-hour comedy where the clothes are like, anyway, well, that's my issue. I'll Venmo you a therapy fee later. But like for Pretty Little Liars, I mean, where you know that the show is so known for its fashion, like, did that affect as you went along on the show? Did you feel like pressure of having to like consistently outdo what you did the last time?
Well, I think one of the cool things about this panel is all of us have designed a show that has gone on so many seasons. I mean,
right.
That doesn't really happen these days anymore. You got Michelle Cole's shows going on season 95. You got Orange is the New Black. You got Grace and Frankie. You got Pretty Little Liars. And again, I can't speak for these designers, but the pressure was my own to top myself, to top my designs, to top my challenges. And I learned a lot from like social media and the fans that I couldn't put it in my head that dressing with intention, like Jen, we were talking about trends. I always say, we don't follow trends, we set them. We don't.
Agreed.
It just happens. And so topping myself and the pressure, it comes from here. It comes from me setting my bar. And honestly, the cool thing is it ends up dope, and that collaboration between you and the producers and the actors, they allow us to do that much bigger, that much bolder, you know? And so when you have that support, I think, and if anything I learned from social media, it is not your worth. It is not who you are. It is a support. It is a leverage. But with social media and pressure, I think if anything, it just comes from this pressure. But, you know.
I agree. And I would say the same. It's like, if people ask me, like, even for red carpet stuff, like, are you concerned if someone's going to be in a worst dress list? And I'm like, I don't even think about that at all. Like, I'm thinking, what is right for this person, character, otherwise. And like, I remember doing a video, it was for Usher, and I wanted to bleach splatter. And this was a long time ago, even though let's say I'm 36.
I think I remember
you
with Usher, because you work with Daniela the tailor, but you also, what was the guy that used to star-studded? What was his name? Rolando.
Oh, and, yes.
Right?
A lot of, yes. I've had a lot of crystals because I did the Queen, Adam Lambert and the Queen tour. So it was Crystal City. But I remember, basically almost dying because I wanted to bleach out all this denim. And this was a long time ago. It was definitely not, it was after acid wash, but it wasn't like a thing in fashion. And I remember the director and even Usher at the time, they were like, I don't know, like, are you sure this is going to be a good idea? I don't know how this is going to look. And I'm like, no, I have a feeling about it. And I'm outside, like, forgot gloves, splattering bleach, inhaling it, just straight thinking like, well, I probably just took 7 years off my life. And then like the video came out, and 6 months later, all these hip hop brands were doing, bleach splattered, stuff, or even like an earring, like a big emerald, where people weren't that into it.
Feathered earring trend.
And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, that earring that I just used, it's on imitations for $25. But you never go in thinking that. You just go in. I mean, I think we all, like, we go in with our gut and what we feel is right for the moment, the person, the character. And then after the fact, you're surprised to see like how many people, then you're sort of like, oh, I guess maybe I'm not the worst costume designer on the planet.
Said the moment is so important. I guarantee all these women have done it too with Aria, the character on PLL. I'm so disgusting. I had a feathered earring in my ear, and I was looking at her in this scene, and I took it out. I mean, these days, clean everything, sanitized. But I remember I took it out, I wiped it off, and I stuck it in her ear. And she was like, oh. And the director, they're like, I think it's a little too much. And later, 2 months after whatever came out, it was the feathered earring trend. You've got Jen Rogen shows with that necklace body piece trend. That was a trend. Grace and Frankie, Michelle Cole, I think have set 20,000 trends an episode, but it does come from the moment.
And just from a real place of what you're doing. I want to just talk about a little bit about your podcast, Convos with Costume Designers, and what's been one of your favorite conversations? And is there a person that you're like dreaming to talk to next?
Oh, that's so funny that you asked that question. So I have my podcast and my Instagram live show, Creative Conversations with Costume Designers. We've been going since April 4th, 2020.
Wow.
My first guest, Ruth Carter, just kicked it off. People ask me like, how'd you get her? And I went, I don't know. I asked her.
Oh my God.
The answer to your question is I've interviewed Jen. I've interviewed Alison. And I would say my favorite costume designer has yet to be interviewed. And her name is Michelle Cole right here. If we're going to put the pressure on, we're going to do it now.
Let's do it.
Like everybody.
Step it up. She's been doing this for over a year. And Ruth Carter, that's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
We have tomorrow with the
How do you follow after Ruth Carter? I mean, how do you do that?
Seriously, like I get that. I mean, that's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
She is like such a hero for me. Like, oh my, I wonder, like, I'll just see something she did and be like, what is it like to live in the brain of Ruth Carter? Like, wow, damn, like she is so next level. Like,
right.
Incredible. But are you going to do it? Is Michelle going to agree to do it? Yes.
I'll get her. I will get her. I know I will. Plus we like text.
Wait, but you know how long it took, I took Alison for me to do the cover of the magazine. Because I wouldn't do it by myself. So they said, Alison, I'm like, I'll do it. Alison.
The most humble, famous human being I've ever met. Like the costume designers, I'm not kidding you. One quick little story. I was at the Costume Designers Guild Awards. Michelle Cole, of course, had to go to a fitting, came, she's going around a million different places. And I remember I got choked up, but I said, oh my God, Michelle, I want to let you know, like, I'm so glad you're here. You influenced my career. And she looked at me and she said, girl, who you are and your shows have inspired me. And I was like, oh my God, this is like winning a Costume Designers Guild Award to have this woman compliment you like that. So if she does my show, great. If not, I text her every day. But tomorrow, on Sunday at 4 p.m., we've got the costume designer from Halston. So tune in.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's so cool. I really want to watch that. I need to watch that.
That'd be great.
Okay, well, I guess we're over time, but I feel honestly like I could talk to you guys forever, and maybe we need to just set that up like now that people are vaccinated. Although that's the one thing I have to say, like the film industry kind of needs to catch up with the CDC a little bit. Like it's really stressful and hard when you're as physical as we are with Matt, and everyone I know is vaccinated. My whole crew's vaccinated, but like still tomorrow at fittings with all these people, we will have to be masking, shielding. People don't know how hard that is. I feel like my mask, the stitching on it reflects in my shield. And when I have to go on stairs, I'm like, well, if COVID doesn't kill me, the PPE is going to kill me. It's just a matter of one way or the other. But I feel like the film industry kind of, IATSE and SAG, everybody needs to sort of get together and kind of yellow level it a little bit. It would just make life a little bit easier. I don't know. I feel like in our world, it's going to stay behind. I don't think they're going to catch quite up to the guild, to the CDC, but one can dream. It's been so fun talking to you guys. Like, I'm personally a big fan of all of you. Like, you've all done really such incredible, honestly, I have to think about, like, it's mind blowing to me how individually you've all done such like incredibly iconic, influential things, because the reality is it's film and television that, in my opinion, influences fashion. I don't think it's really the other way around. It, like I said, where you look at a Michelle Pfeiffer or a particular film, I think that then gets reflected in fashion. It's not necessarily fashion influence, a little bit of both, but I really do think it starts with costume designers. And not enough credit is given really to the fact that we just get nothing but a script or boards, and we have to go from just our own minds to build all these concepts and ideas out. And there is so much heart that goes into it. But I'm a big fan of all of you guys, and this has been so fun. And I hope everybody enjoyed watching. And another big thank you to Mary Kay for supporting us. And this is going to be posted. This is going to be posted live. You know, it's going to be recorded. It's recorded. It's going to be posted maybe at Glamhive or on the Glamhive site or hashtag Glamhive Live. And I just hope everybody's enjoyed it and that you really know that it's not easy being a costume designer. It sounds glamorous, but it's not. We shop all day. We go up really tall ladders and stand on a 1 foot little square to costume shop. It's, you know, it's not easy. It's not for the faint of heart. So you got to be creative and have a good business head. I don't think you necessarily need an agent. I've had them and I've not had them, but it's about networking. It's about treating everybody on set with respect, because that person who's a PA today will be Steven Spielberg in a year or less. Right. So you never know. And everybody is there to be collaborative. Everybody just wants to make a beautiful project. And that's very key to being successful, I think, for all of us.
Can I say one thing before?
Yes.
I want to say thank you for all these messages. If we didn't get to your guys' questions, DM us. We may get back to you. We may not. Thank you to Linda Kearns. Thank you, Jen, for hosting. Like, this was, I mean, thank you for hanging out with these three ladies. That's kind of my favorite part because I never get to see them. So yes, thank you to Mary Kay and Glamhive and to all those people listening. You guys are the future. So
thank you. Yeah. All right. I'll see you guys later. I'll see you at Warner Brothers.
Bye.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.